The world of boxing is mourning the loss of Puerto Rican Prichard Colón. Colón passed away at the age of 33, 11 years after suffering life-changing brain injuries during his 2015 fight against American boxer Terrel Williams.
My name is Prichard Colón. I'm 20 years old. I'm a pro boxer out of Orocovis, Puerto Rico. My pro record is 2-0.
Yeah, I mean, that was directly to the back of the head. It's a heavy shot.
October 17th, 2015. The undefeated Puerto Rican prospect who had knocked out 13 of his 16 professional opponents, who had never once been put on the canvas by any man alive.
Winner by knockout, Prichard Colón
was lying on the floor of a dressing room in Fairfax, Virginia, unable to stand, blood pooling inside his skull. 90 minutes earlier, he had walked into that arena as the betting favorite on national television. 23 years old, ranked, rising, and being spoken about as the next great champion the island of Puerto Rico would produce. Now his mother was holding him upright. He was vomiting. He could not tell anyone what was wrong. And a section of the crowd he had just fought in front of was jeering him, convinced he was faking it. Inside his head, a subdural hematoma roughly 1.5 centimeters wide was pressing on his brain. He had complained about it for 3 rounds. 3 different people had the authority to stop what was happening, and none of them did. This is the story of the final 24 hours of Prichard Colón, the fighter, the prospect, the young man who existed before that night. Because he did not die in 2026, he died on a Saturday evening in Virginia, and it took 11 more years for the world to be told. The autumn of 2015 found Prichard Colón exactly where he was supposed to be. He was 16 fights into a professional career and had lost none of them. 13 of those wins came by knockout. He was a super welterweight with unusual length for the division, a fighter who could box behind a jab or take you out with 1 shot. And he had been groomed for this since childhood. Consider what he had already accomplished before that night. 5 national amateur championships in Puerto Rico, across 2 different weight classes. An amateur record reported at roughly 170 wins against 15 losses. A gold medal at the 2010 Pan American Youth Championship, won before he was 20 years old. Puerto Rico is an island of a little over 3 million people that has produced an extraordinary number of world champions. Wilfredo Gomez, Felix Trinidad, Miguel Cotto. Prichard Colón was widely considered the next name on that list. But to understand how a career like that ends in 9 rounds, you have to first understand the family that built it. Prichard Colón Melendez was born on September 19, 1992, in Maitland, Florida, American by birth and Puerto Rican in every way that mattered to him. His mother, Nieves, worked as a waitress and later as a hairdresser. His father, Richard, had been a fighter himself, trained in the same circles as the father of Felix Trinidad, before an injury of his own ended that road. When Prichard was around 10 years old, the family made a decision that reshaped all of their lives. They left Florida and moved to Orocovis, a small town in the mountains at the center of Puerto Rico. The reason was not work. It was not family. It was so that Prichard could train in the Puerto Rican system and one day represent Puerto Rico rather than the United States. He developed at the Albergue Olímpico in Salinas, the island's Olympic training center. It was there that he picked up the nickname Digit, a play on the word digger, a reference to how tall and long he was for his weight. He finished high school. He enrolled at the Universidad del Sagrado Corazón in San Juan to study business administration. People who covered him early talked about his composure and his intelligence as much as his power. And his father was not just his father. Prichard Colón was his trainer, his cornerman, the man holding the pads. Every step of that climb, from a mountain gym in Orocovis to a nationally televised card in Virginia, the two of them took together. Remember that. It becomes the whole story later. The morning of October 17th, 2015, began like every other fight day of his life. The venue was Eagle Bank Arena on the campus of George Mason University in the Washington, D.C. suburbs. A college basketball arena converted for boxing, bright house lights, a hard floor, and a crowd that skewed toward Terrel Williams, the local man. Williams was not an easy night. He was 15-0 himself, 12 of those by knockout, a genuine prospect with his own future ahead of him. 2 undefeated men on a televised card, one of whom would leave with the first loss of his career. In the dressing room, the routine ran as it always had. Wraps, warm-up, his father working the pads, his mother somewhere close, the way she always was. There was nothing about that day that felt different. That is the part people struggle with when they hear this story. There was no premonition, no bad feeling, no warning sign. It was a Saturday. It was a fight. He had done this 16 times and won all 16. What happened over the next 90 minutes would take everything. The trouble does not start with a knockdown. It starts with a complaint. Somewhere in the middle rounds, Colón begins telling his corner that he is being hit on the back of the head. In boxing, those are called rabbit punches, and they are illegal for one specific reason. The base of the skull is where the brainstem sits. It is the least protected point on a fighter's body, and a hard shot there can shear blood vessels between the brain and the skull. He complains once, then again, he gestures to the back of his own head between rounds. According to later legal filings, the referee, Joe Cooper, at one point tells Colón to take care of it himself. Consider what that instruction actually means. A 23-year-old is reporting to the one official with the power to stop the fight that he is being struck somewhere illegal and dangerous, and the answer he receives is to handle it on his own. Prichard Colón now faced a crisis that no amount of skill could solve, because the damage was not happening anywhere he could defend. In the 7th round, another blow lands behind the head and Colón goes down. Watch what he does when he hits the canvas, because it is the single most important image in this entire story. He does not grab his jaw. He does not clutch his ribs or his stomach. He reaches back with a gloved hand and holds the base of his own skull. Terrel Williams is deducted a point. The fight is allowed to continue. Between rounds, Colón is examined by the ringside physician, Dr. Richard Ashby. He reports dizziness. He reports pain in the back of his head. In neurology, that pairing, dizziness plus pain in the back of the skull, following repeated blunt trauma, is a textbook warning sign of bleeding inside the head. The doctor's later explanation was that he expected the fighter to shake it off. Colón is sent back out. This is the moment, not the punch, not the disqualification, not anything that happens afterward. A young man reported the symptoms of a brain injury while that brain injury was actively occurring, and he was returned to the ring to be hit for 2 more rounds. From that point forward, everything that happens is the consequence of a decision that had already been made. By the 9th round, he is no longer the fighter who walked in. He is slow to respond. He is not defending the way he had in 16 straight wins. Williams taunts him, cutthroat gestures across the ring, and then does what no opponent in Prichard Colón's entire life had ever done. He knocks him down, and then he does it a second time before the bell.
And Colón drops down to his knees. The crowd is furious right now. The ref calls time. Right hand, and yeah, I mean, that was directly to the back of the head.
The 9th round ends in confusion. That would be almost absurd if the consequences were not what they are. In the corner, Colón's team believes the fight is over. Someone begins pulling his gloves off. It was the 9th round, not the 10th. Under the rules, a fighter cannot re-enter the ring without gloves, and there was no time to get them back on properly. Prichard Colón is disqualified, the only defeat of his professional career in a fight in which he had been repeatedly fouled, decided by a mistake in his own corner, 16-1. He does not walk out under his own power. His mother, Meaves, later described her son with his arm around her, leaning on her just to stay upright, while fans jeered him for what they assumed was an act. She said afterward that all she could think in that moment was that she hoped her son could not hear them, because Prichard did not fake anything.
Towards the locker room, one hand around his mother, his legs are becoming really shaky, and which I thought was odd. I couldn't understand it.
I asked him in Spanish, "Papi, ¿cómo tú estás?" And he answered in English, "Mami, I'm dizzy, I cannot see."
He reaches the dressing room. He becomes violently ill. He vomits, and then he collapses. Emergency medical technicians move him out of the arena and to Inova Fairfax Hospital. Imaging shows the bleed. A subdural hematoma about 1.5 centimeters across. Blood filling a space that has nowhere to expand into, compressing brain tissue with every passing minute. He is taken into emergency surgery to relieve the pressure inside his skull. He never speaks another word. The surgery saved his life. It did not save him. Prichard Colón went into a coma that night and did not come out of it for 221 days. Not 221 hours. Days. More than 7 months of his parents sitting beside a hospital bed, being told to prepare for the worst, refusing to accept it, posting updates for an island that was refreshing the page every morning. And then, the cruelest thing in this entire story happened. He woke up, because waking up was not the recovery everyone had prayed for. Waking up was the moment the family finally understood the true scale of what had been done. Prichard was left in what doctors classified as a persistent vegetative state. He could not walk, he could not speak. He would require round-the-clock care for the rest of his life. The World Boxing Council would later state that he sustained irreversible neurological damage from what it described as severe, illegal blows to the back of the head. He was 24 years old. He had a university enrollment, a title shot on the horizon, and a body built to do one thing at an elite level in front of millions of people. And from that morning forward, he communicated by nodding his head, with his eyes, with his face, with a computer that could produce speech when his own voice no longer could. His parents brought him home to Florida. They divorced somewhere in the years that followed, and it changed nothing about the arrangement. Both of them stayed. Neves became his primary caregiver in Orlando, feeding, turning, bathing, running a therapy schedule that never ended. They celebrated a squeezed hand the way other families celebrate a graduation. His physical therapist later described a patient who danced to whatever music was playing between exercises, who shadowboxed with his therapists, who playfully headbutted them, who kept demanding that more weight be added to the machine. She said his passion for life was contagious. That is not a body in a bed. That is a fighter, still competing in the only arena he had left. For 11 years, that was his life. Roughly 4,000 days of it. And here is where this story requires honesty, because the internet is already filling this gap with things that are not true. There was no public announcement that he was dying. There was no deathbed vigil reported. No specific medical cause of death has been disclosed by his family or by any official source. What is confirmed is this: Prichard Colón died on August 13, 2026, at home in Florida, at 33 years old, with his family around him, which means his final 24 hours almost certainly looked exactly like the 4,000 days that came before them. The same room, the same care routine, his mother's hands, his father nearby, music playing somewhere the way it usually was. There was no dramatic final act. That is the point. The dramatic final act happened in 2015. What followed was 11 years of quiet, unglamorous, unrelenting love in a bedroom in Orlando, with no cameras and no crowd. On that Thursday morning, Prichard Colón, the father, the former fighter, the trainer who had moved his family to a mountain town so his son could represent an island, went online and told the world that his son had passed from this earthly world. He thanked people for 11 years of prayers. He asked them to keep praying. And then he wrote the line that broke people. He said he had done everything he could to grant his son one last wish, a trip home to Puerto Rico, and that he had not been able to make it happen. 11 years of caring for his child, and the thing that hurt enough to write down publicly was a vacation. The news moved across the boxing world within hours. The World Boxing Council, which had already named him an honorary world champion and handed his family the green and gold belt, called him a true warrior. The World Boxing Organization said his courage had transcended the ring. But the institutional response had been decided long before. Virginia's Department of Professional and Occupational Regulation investigated the bout and concluded in 2016 that while what happened to Colón was tragic, no single action was egregious enough to place blame on any one person. That same department acknowledged that it does not license or discipline ringside doctors or referees. Listen to that again. Nobody was found at fault by an agency that admits it has no authority over the two officials closest to the decision that mattered. In 2017, his parents filed suit seeking more than $50 million from the ringside physician and the promoters, alleging the fight should have been stopped in the 7th round. 9 years later, that case still has not been resolved. Prichard Colón died before his own lawsuit reached a conclusion. Terrel Williams never recovered either. In his own way, he fought twice more and effectively disappeared from the sport. He has said for years that he prays for Colón, that he never intended to harm anyone like that, and that he does not place any blame on himself. Since the death, that has hardened into public calls for criminal charges against him. Accusations that come from angry strangers online, not from any investigation. What did change was the rulebook. The World Boxing Council hardened its position on blows to the back of the head to a zero-tolerance standard, and tightened ringside medical protocols worldwide. In boxing circles, people simply call it the Prichard Colón rule. Prichard Colón's death marked the end of something that had already been over for 11 years, and that is precisely why it hit so hard. On the surface, this is a story about one illegal punch. That is how it gets shared, and that is the headline. But that is not what happened to him. What happened to him was a sequence of small, ordinary failures by people who each had the authority to stop it. A referee who told a fighter to handle it himself. A doctor who thought he would shake it off. A commission with no jurisdiction over the officials it was reviewing. A sport that treated a young man's report of dizziness and skull pain as an inconvenience between rounds. Any one of them could have ended that fight in the 7th, and Prichard Colón is 33 years old right now, retired, possibly a champion, probably a father. Go back to where this started. A family sold their life in Florida and moved into the mountains so that a 10-year-old could one day carry a flag. Everything he ever achieved, he achieved because his family put themselves entirely behind him. And when the sport was finished with him, the sport went home. His family did not. They did 11 more years in a bedroom with no belt and no audience. Boxing gave Prichard Colón an honorary title. His parents gave him a decade of their lives. The record book will always read 16-1. Everyone who watched what came after knows that the one does not belong to him. If this story stayed with you, tell us which part did. The 7th round, when he told the doctor his head hurt and was sent back out anyway. The 221 days, and the fact that waking up was the worst news his family received, or his father, after 11 years, apologizing publicly for a vacation he could not deliver. Let us know your thoughts in the comments section. And before you leave, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Octagon Report so you don't miss the next ones.